I didn't do a 5-minute warning here because I'm just going to get straight into it. I know I missed yesterday. Sorry about that. But my song had a lot of views. So I can't believe I did that. I think if I had practiced ahead of time, I might not have said I would do a song. But anyway, it was a bit of fun. And thank you for all your lovely comments and for watching. So we are up to my sixth letter, the 18th of February 2009. And just remember, these are letters that I'm particularly writing to at this stage. It was mostly just our church friends. Later on, it got wider, but pretty much this is my church family that I'm writing to. So it is full of that stuff. Anyway, so hello, church. I have been working with the scripture where sin abounds, grace abounds more so. Romans 5:20b. So it's obviously second. That means when you see an A or a B, it means it's that like B is the second half of that verse. Prison is a pretty intense front line for sin. Now I'm finding that the Lord is answering my prayers almost immediately. That was pretty amazing back then. For example, yesterday I hugged a friend and pecked the top of her head in a gesture of affection, just a little kiss on the top of her head. She happens to be a lesbian, and her roommate exploded with foul language, telling me to go kiss someone else. And I just said, no worries, and walked away. Because it just didn't even occur to me, because it's the sort of things that you might do with a regular friend. As has become my practice, I prayed God's blessing on her, the cranky one. I suppose I should have known better. I wouldn't do it to someone else's husband or boyfriend. See, clueless. Um, Still, it's hard to take lesbians seriously when you aren't one. Look, I'm just saying, that's how I felt at the time. I didn't treat it like it was a regular relationship at the time. I've known a few gay men, and they're usually much more fun. Granted, it is prison, and people are not necessarily going to be at their most happy, fun-loving selves in prison. But I hadn't had much to do with lesbians before this, and now there were lots of them, and it was a culture shock. So I was getting to know people, and I guess to be fair, they're in prison, so there are lesbians outside prison, regular people, and inside prisons, because they're in prison, like most people who are in prison, they've got issues that got them there, which are nothing necessarily to do with their sexuality, or possibly everything to do with it, depending on what's happened to them. Anyway, I'm not an expert, just doing my best. Okay, so Amanda wisely reminded me not to tell the girl I was praying for her, as I could get reported, or worse. Anyway, each time I saw her or thought of her, I prayed for God to bless her. Then, without warning, she came to me. This is not the one that I gave a kiss to. This is her girlfriend. She came to me, put her arm on my back, and apologized sincerely, saying profusely, saying, I can come and talk to her anytime. This is a girl I had not spoken to even once in 3 weeks, as I just sensed I should leave her alone. So I talked to her friend, which probably wasn't smart, but anyway. God is so good. Grace sure outweighs sin. I can see why churches under persecution thrive. You want your church to thrive? We don't always hear about the joy that comes as we watch the dynamics unfold. God really is the master chess player. He's the master chess player. And often I speak about Romans 8:28, that he makes all things work together for our good. And that includes persecution. Just ask people from the churches in the Eastern Bloc countries who've suffered, or in China or somewhere. It's You don't always hear about the joy. And I'm currently reading a book by Ravi Zacharias and I can't remember the name of the other guy, but it's about the Jesus of the East. And I've read a section about the persecuted church and the joy and the intensity of the presence of God that they feel, because there's a joy in his presence. When you're in the presence of God, there's just a joy that happens. And, we think about the persecution and so on, but there's great comfort in that joy in his presence. Anyway, right. I missed last Sunday's service due to our walkathon being postponed. Remember I talked about that? That was when to raise funds for the Victorian bushfires. I was told I would be back in time, but the powers that be decided to shuffle the times, so I missed out. Most of the ladies in our unit went to the service, and when they returned, they told me it was amazing. Nobody sat in the back scoffing. All stood to worship, and some came to me afterwards, demanding to know why they hadn't been able to stop crying. So they're in a worship service that was really good, and the presence of God touched them, and they started weeping. And when when the presence of God is really intense, and you're into it, there's actually a healing that takes place, and often there will be tears as you're overcome, and you get filled and touched. It's pretty special. Each day, Sandra and I have led someone to Jesus or ministered to them in a deep way. There are several Christians here, but they don't really stand out. They don't offer to pray for others. I guess when you are called, you can't help functioning in your gift. I knew I took a risk when I decided to be open and not hide away, to be open about being a person of faith and not hide. But I knew God had me here for a reason, and I wanted to make the most of it. And I was conscious of that verse that says that Jesus said, if you're ashamed, if you deny me before men, then I'll deny you before my Father. But if you're not ashamed and you are open about me before people, then I'll acknowledge you before God. And it's kind of sad that there were Christians in there who were too scared or ashamed to reveal that that's what they are. And it's a hard road, but it was just I wouldn't have coped. I wouldn't have been myself if I'd repressed that. So as much as I got in trouble in this politically correct system, I think my mental health actually coped better because of it, because of being open and even in getting in trouble. All right. Since I couldn't go to church, the chaplain, the visiting minister, and another lady came to see me. They'd heard about me. They laid hands on me and prayed in the Spirit. No one could hear us, and I was touched by their thoughtfulness. And it's probably something they're not allowed to do. It was 10 years ago, so Mark, if you're listening, don't worry, no one needs to get into trouble. So talking about the minister for corrections and for police. His name's Mark. We're good mates, actually. All right, so yeah, doesn't make a decision without talking to me. Yeah, nah. All right. The chaplaincy is not well respected by the authorities here. They might say otherwise, but they're very restricted. There's no hugging, no spiritual counselling, and something I find extremely prejudicial, not to mention ungrateful. They do such a great job and should be credited with being a calming influence in a volatile place. My message for the church is about overcoming evil with good. And I'm collecting great stories as examples. Take 5 minutes now to pray for someone who may be annoying you. Take 5 minutes and pray for the person who might be annoying you. pray for God's blessing on that person, mentally, emotionally, financially, every area that you can think of. Also, ask the Lord to help you look at them through his eyes. Listen with his ears, and to have a mouth that speaks grace and life. And for those of you who have heard me, even personally, one-on-one, and out and about, it's kind of nice to see that advice so early. I mean, that was 2009, February, right at the start. And I never stopped. There were times when I would rather have just vomited in a bucket than pray for somebody that was really annoying and just horrible. But every time I do it, stuff shifts. Sometimes it shifts in me, it often shifts in them, and it often shifts the circumstances. And I'm going to sneeze. No? Okay. And not so long ago, I actually added, when Jesus said, do good, pray for and do good for those who are annoying you. Hey, John, see you there. Good to see you. Sometimes I forget to have a look down. So here's something that I really want to challenge you with. You're going to hate it. It's great. You're going to hate it. So Jesus said, love your enemies and do good to those who persecute you, right? And pray for them. So yes, you pray for them. Find something good you can do for them without them even knowing. I mean, if they know, that's kind of nice, but if you can do it without them even finding out, doing something good, that's awesome, and God will reward you, because he said what you do secretly, he will reward openly. I mean, he's talking about prayer, but he says don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing, so don't brag about your giving. Here's the thing. What I actually started to do last year, must be careful about this because you might start annoying me in order for me to do this for you. Please don't. Is even just anonymously sowing into them money and offering a gift, that not just praying God, and you don't have to feel like it. You do it out of obedience. You just go, God, oh, I'm going to do this, and you're going to see this over and over through the book if you want to keep listening. But praying for every area of their life and his perspective on them, do something good for them, and the power of sowing a financial gift anonymously, is just amazing. It's just amazing. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to just go bragging, oh, I did this and then God did that for me. There's something that puts you in this position of power, authority, confidence, not so much over the person, but it certainly removes the power that they had over you, because when you allow someone else to annoy you, and you might be correct, it might be unjust, they might be speaking against you. I've had that happen. They might be telling lies about you. I've had that happen. I've had my family spoken against, and I guess when you've been to jail, people say things about you, and by nature I'm a people pleaser, so I have to overcome that. But there is such a breaking of that chain. There's a freedom that comes when you position yourself to be a blessing to that person, and they can't do anything about it and they don't even know about it. It's like it just has the reverse effect of any curse. It's pretty exciting. So just a thought, and don't tell anyone. That's probably the hardest part, is not saying, oh, I live this. So I guess I'm telling you by saying this, but it's because I dare you to try it. I dare you to do this to, I was going to say the most annoying person in your life, but perhaps that's asking a bit much. Practice on someone who's not too irritating. Just start there. All right, I'll leave you with that. You'll hate it, but I'm telling you, it'll be so, so worth it. And I will say, have a great weekend. Bless you heaps, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. there we are, ending, and